Story 1. My mother keeps talking to my husband about my ex. I, 24 female, am happily married to my husband, 21 male, and soon to have a bundle of joy coming. Our current living situation isn't the greatest. We've had some financial hardships that have caused us to move in with my mom and her boyfriend. When we're around my mom and her boyfriend, they tend to bring up my past relationship and talk poorly of my ex, which I could care less, but it's more of the matter that they do this in front of my husband, and I can tell it makes him uncomfortable sometimes. So, rewind back to the breakup. It happened in June 2022 and had met my husband through a social media platform in November 2022, and eventually tied the knot in early January 2023. I've not been in contact with my ex for over a year now, and I have told all friends and family that I would like them to cut ties with the ex for my own sake. However, I have spoken to my mom about this, and she still follows him on social media. Everyone else I've asked kindly to remove him did, besides her. She likes to tell my husband what he's been up to or tell him stories that have happened in the past prior to meeting my husband that are irrelevant. My husband and I have gotten into arguments about this topic due to my mom not listening to my wishes. I guess what I'm really trying to get at is, what do I do in this situation? I've spoken to my mom about this, and she sees no wrong in any of her actions. She tends to play victim. It upsets me and truly makes me feel as if my now current husband is not good enough, or she simply does not like him and is trying to drive a wedge in between him and I. I never like when parents do this kind of crap. Like, it's not just bringing up exes, but doing something that their kid tries to talk to them about and is like, hey, I really don't like when you do this. It makes me really uncomfortable. And the parent goes, oh, no, it's nothing. It's no big deal. I don't see anything wrong with it. The thing that you should see wrong with it is that it's making your kid extremely uncomfortable. And if you cared about them and how they feel, that is the reason. That's enough of a reason to stop. You shouldn't need anything else. Unless it's like, like if for some reason, like the mom worked with this boyfriend and had to deal with him at her job or something, it's like, okay, fine. Like, hey, she can't avoid that. She's working with this person. It's unreasonable to ask her to stop doing that. That'd be one thing. But this is just her actively like snooping and gossiping. Like, what is wrong with you? That is like, you can't give that up. How sad is the rest of your life? Find a hobby. Do something else other than gossiping about someone that other people are extremely uncomfortable with you gossiping about. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for asking my husband why the cameras don't work when he's home alone? Recently married and combined households by moving in together. Great relationship, healthy intercourse life, good communication. I, 38 female, have a few cameras around the house for security and to communicate with the kiddos that don't have cell phones yet, but mainly to see when my kids get home from school. I could care less about the cameras most any other time. I had these and more at my old house, but I've only set up 3 so far at the new house. The new house also came with a Ring doorbell camera. My husband, 43 male, is work from home. The first few weeks in the house were fine. No hiccups or glitches with the cameras. The Ring doorbell worked like a champ at every slight bit of movement. The first week he was alone in the house, and the first day the kids go off to school, when they come home through the front door, there's no Ring notification. The timeline glitches as if the shots were deleted. He is the main Ring account holder. I'm shared. I can't delete anything. That evening I mentioned it, and he got defensive, so I initially dropped it. I wouldn't have married him if I didn't trust him. I was just curious about what happened. Later we talked it over, and I explained that I didn't think he did something malicious, but something definitely happened. Agreed to move past it. I decided to just take note on when I noticed the glitches. It has happened a few more times, and always on days that he's been at home alone. Every so often, I've asked one of the kids what he's doing when they got home, and most of the time he was playing video games or in a work meeting. Today, around 2, I go to check the garage camera to see if he's left the garage open, which he does frequently, and we end up with exorbitant power bills. So I remind him to shut the door. I get the error, live view failed. I tried the front of the garage, same error. I screenshot and sent them to him asking if he knows why they aren't working. He loses his crap. Start saying I am accusing him of hiding things. Now, I didn't think he's cheating. We have a healthy intercourse life. We typically communicate, but I just don't understand. The cameras work great when he isn't home alone. He has access to the cameras just as I have access to the ring. If he isn't hiding anything and not messing with the cameras, why the defense? I didn't ask what he was doing, but I did insinuate that I thought he had something to do with it. It's hard not to be a bit suspicious when his reactions are like that, because what? That does not add up. And yeah, you know what? Maybe what he's doing is harmless. Maybe he's just eating shredded cheese right out of the package in front of the fridge like a goblin or something like that. I don't know. Maybe it is malicious. But the fact that when this person is like, hey, why aren't the cameras working? And he's like, how dare you? What do you think I'm doing? Huh? I'm not doing anything wrong. It's just not me. It's like, whoa, buddy. If you're getting that defensive, either A, you have just real bad trust issues or something like that going on, my dude, or B, you're doing something and you're getting defensive because of that. One way or the other, you gotta work something out a little bit because this seems a little sketchy. Story 2. How do I tell a one-night stand that I have his kid? Okay, to keep it simple, my son's baby daddy was a one-night stand. He was a trucker who got snowed in, we met at a bar and hooked up, didn't exchange contact info, I was just bored, lonely, and temporarily insane from the pandemic and was being risky and stupid as crap and didn't bother with protection. I love my kid though, no regret there. Glad I didn't get an STD. When I realized I was pregnant, I thought long and hard about it and decided to keep him. Thanks, Catholic guilt. It's not strong enough to stop me from having intercourse, but strong enough to stop me from getting an abortion. LOL. Just kidding. I love my kiddo and kept him because I wanted him. I make a decent living. Child support would help, but we can get by without it. I didn't expect to ever see the baby daddy again, and I was okay with that. Kiddo has my last name. I didn't know his name. I was fine with being a single mom and dealing with everything myself. To be honest, some of my friends have crap baby daddies, and they and their kids are better off without them. I feel like a kiddo and am better off on our own than trying to add someone to the mix anyway. At least, that's what I told myself. But my friend who works at the gas station just happened to see him. She knows his name and race, saw his name on his ID, her nosy butt made sure to confirm it was the same guy and ask if he remembered me, asked for his number on my behalf, and passed it on to me. I'm sure he's flattered thinking some random hookup talked up his skills to her friends to the extent that they remembered his name, laughed my butt off. Anyway, thanks to her nosy butt, I can't claim innocence anymore and am forced to make a decision. So, first of all, do I say anything? I know it's technically supposed to be the right thing to do, but to be honest, I've heard so many baby daddy horror stories. It's to the point that if I'd gotten pregnant from a hookup with a guy I would reasonably expect to see again, but not well enough to know to trust, I might actually abort because I wouldn't want my kid to go through what some kids have gone through. If I say something, this guy can sue for custody or guardianship. I can't bear the thought of letting my baby go to some stranger and not being around. Hell, he can't even talk and couldn't tell me if something happened. Not that I think anyone would or that the trucker would want custody in the first place, but who even knows these days? On the other hand, how can I deprive my kiddo of a father? It would be one thing if, once he was older, I could honestly say I didn't know where his father was, but I can't possibly lie to him about that, and I can't imagine telling him I could have found his father, but I was too scared. So, I'm leaning towards telling him, but how do I even do that? Can I just text him the news and get it over with? Should I try to see if he can meet up next time he passes by and tell him face to face? Is there any kind of legal crap I should be aware of with this kind of thing? Yeah, in case you couldn't tell, I went from giving no Fs during the pandemic to giving too many Fs about everything as a mom, and no matter what plan I make, I just keep thinking of ways things might backfire and somehow hurt my kiddo. I know I'm way overthinking probably, but please, I just need someone to tell me what to do. So, I guess I would be in the camp of contacting the father and just asking him, if he wanted to be at all a part of this kid's life and making it clear that you're perfectly fine raising this kid on your own. And, asking this guy like, hey, if you don't want to be a part of his life, the kid's life now, do you want the kid to be able to contact you later, sometime down the road, or keep my information? I don't know. I'm just all for being kind of forward about this stuff, open communication, all that, and letting him make the decision. I don't think I would hold it against you if you decided not to contact the father, I think kids can be just fine without a father in their life, I mean, there's a chance you might meet someone that, you end up getting together with, and the kid will think of that person as their father, or whatever, there's a lot of possibilities. I don't necessarily think there's a wrong choice with this situation, but I would encourage at least reaching out. Story 3. Organized leaving gifts for coworker I knew she wouldn't like. I used to work in a microbiology lab in a hospital. We had a big staff, lots of people coming and going, and the managerial staff were honestly not very good. Most of them had been promoted due to seniority of lab experience and qualifications, and very few had any management training whatsoever. A big issue I had with management was that they'd arrange collections for coworkers selectively. Usually they'd only remember to do it for managerial staff, but there was an exception for staff on every level to chip. There was an expectation for staff on every level to chip in. So I took it upon myself to organize the forgotten collections, leaving presents, significant birthdays, and collections for new parents for members of staff at every level, not just the ones who were chummy with the heads of department. This colleague, I'll call her Linda, was an older woman with a lifetime of experience working for a well-known travel agency that had recently shut most of its branches nationwide. Linda resented being trained by younger staff, even though she had no clue about anything remotely scientific. She was lazy and would refuse to do tasks she found boring, even if they were essential for lab maintenance. But worst of all, she was a bully. She particularly enjoyed picking on an autistic colleague and anyone who seemed vulnerable. This culminated in her trying to make Sarah jump as a prank after she learned Sarah was particularly jumpy and prone to panic attacks when triggered. We never disclosed this, but it was due to her past and an abusive relationship. Linda thought that people who were triggered were snowflakes and woke. On a particularly busy day, Linda jumped suddenly at Sarah, who responded in fight-or-flight mode and punched Linda in the face, breaking her glasses and busting her nose. Naturally, Linda couldn't handle the humiliation and the dirty looks she received after that. Everyone was unanimously supportive of Sarah. She handed in her notice and found a job as a carer. I had spent a lot of time training her and decided to do a collection for her as I did for everyone, and I did feel kind of bad for her, even though she was dreadful. While I'd been training her, she told me a lot of her personal gripes. She didn't like chocolates with raisins or nuts in it. She didn't like books as gifts, homework. She didn't like when people bought her bathing products, intimate, inappropriate, presumptive, and insulting. And she thought candles were for hippies. To be fair, I think she was making a joke about some of these, but she was also very rude about hippies around a Jamaican colleague who wore dreadlocks. I got a lackluster collection for her, and we got her a leaving card signed by everyone in the department, including Sarah, some fancy chocolate-covered fruit, a gorgeous copy of Wuthering Heights, my least favorite book at school, re-gifted bath bombs, and incense sticks with a wooden holder tray. Honestly, she was beaming when she was given them, and she seemed genuinely touched. I hope that she's happy now, and who knows, maybe she's an excellent care worker. I'm not sure if this counts as petty revenge, but I still feel wicked when I think about it. I mean, yeah, I feel like that is probably a pretty good little, prank, revenge, whatever kind of stuff, you got her presents, but they were things that she probably wasn't super thrilled about, and, maybe she learned a lesson, maybe she is better now, and she's a happier person, and we can hope she's improved, and maybe not, maybe she's just still kind of awful and secretly hated those gifts, and maybe by getting them realized, hey, maybe they would have gotten me nice gifts if I was actually pleasant. So, I don't know. Either way, I think you did the right thing. Story 4. Am I the a-hole for changing the walk-down song at a wedding? I, 23 male, love to sing. I'm not American Idol good, but I'm considered a ringer at karaoke night by my friends. I was a groomsman for my best friend, Travis, 23 male, wedding to Taylor, 23 female. Taylor had been the exact opposite of a bridezilla. The only non-negotiable thing she had was that she did not want a track playing when she walked down the aisle and wanted a live band. A reasonable request. They had Enchanted by Taylor Swift as their walk-down song, as it was the song he proposed to her during one of our karaoke nights. Well, day of the wedding comes and the lead singer of the band ends up passing out during rehearsal. She had to leave to go to the hospital. As Travis couldn't see her, I had to go inform Taylor through a bridesmaid. Bridesmaid comes back and states that while Taylor was empathetic and she understood, she was still adamant about no tracks. She asked if I was willing to sing in place, but I told her that my voice wouldn't fit the song she wanted. Bridesmaid asked me to do whatever I needed to do to try and make something work. I spoke with the band and asked if they were able to learn True by Ryan Cabrera, a relatively simple song with an hour's notice, and a song I know my voice can handle. They were willing to, and after a quick readjustment rehearsal with those actually walking down the aisle, minus Taylor, wedding happened. I performed the song, and although somewhat confused, Taylor seemed very happy. I then take my place in my position as a groomsman. At the photos portion, Taylor comes up to me and jumped me with a hug, thanking me for stepping in. She asked why I changed the song, but after a brief explanation of how my voice wouldn't have worked, she understood and said she was happy I chose that song. Travis, on the other hand, was not very talkative to me. After the reception and following days, he ghosted me. After finally having enough, I went over to his place to talk this out. This is where all went loose. He was very upset with me for changing the song, knowing it was Taylor's favorite song and I couldn't have sucked it up for literally 5 minutes. I defended by stating the following. 1. I was following Taylor's one request for no track music. 2. My voice would have made any of the video footage taken ruined because the song didn't fit my voice. 3. I chose another song that I know he and Taylor loved and that I could actually sing. He basically removed all that by stating that I should have done what was requested in the first place. As soon as I mentioned how Taylor didn't mind, he kicked me out. Several people are divided. Our friend group, aka the groomsmen, are taking Travis's side and stating how I'm the jerk. The bridesmaid, Taylor's friend, are defending me for choosing a song that I could sing and was still wedding appropriate. Taylor has remained silent about this as she is Travis's wife, but no, I did what I could. I genuinely don't know what to make of everything. Am I the a-hole? No, and Travis is being the a-hole. Like, that's so... I'm sorry. It's not like they got you to sing at their wedding months ago and you changed the song last minute. The person who was supposed to sing had a medical emergency, and then you stepped in and did what you could. Travis should be thanking you for doing your best, for giving them something. And, the fact that he's being like this is just obnoxious. And, yeah, no, you're not being the jerk at all. And the fact that, some of your friends are just like, you were a real jerk for standing in and singing a song that they loved at their wedding because it wasn't the exact right song that, wouldn't have worked for your voice. Holy crap, people. Why can't you just be thankful for a wonderful, nice thing that someone's done? Oh, man. Story 5. Today I effed up by ruining our work potluck. I am a store manager at a well-known pharmacy and decided to have a Thanksgiving potluck today to celebrate the holiday at work. My staff knows I'm a pretty good baker, but being the store manager, I felt obligated to provide the protein for the potluck. Originally, I was just going to bring turkey, but having never cooked a turkey before, I thought it would be wise to also pick up a ham just in case I ruined it. Anyways, I spent hours researching how best to cook a turkey and decided to do a 2-day wet brine, followed by a day air drying in the fridge, and then spatchcocking it. Finally finished it off by putting a bunch of compound butter under the skin. I also bought an injector and made the last-minute decision to inject it with bacon fat for good measure. One of my employees complained about dry turkey that morning at work before I went home to cook it, so I was determined not to have a dry turkey. Not sure where exactly I went wrong, but the turkey came out pretty bad for a number of reasons. The skin was super rubbery and gross instead of crispy. The meat was mediocre in terms of moisture. I've also never carved a turkey, so the carving job was pretty tragic. The biggest issue was that something in the poultry spice mix I bought just wasn't good at all. It gave the turkey a very funky taste. The poultry spice had a turkey on it and was merchandised with the turkey, so it was meant for turkey. Might just be a personal preference in regard to the spices, but the lack of turkey eaten today proves I am not alone in my judgment. But the ham! At least you have the ham, right? Well, I decided to do a honey-baked ham recipe that I found. The recipe called for a spiralized ham, and apparently I did not purchase one of those. So I decided to attempt to carve the ham up prior to putting it in the crock pot because the recipe mentioned putting the honey butter mixture between the slices. So another terrible carving job later, and I have a bunch of oddly shaped slices in my crock-pot liner with what seems like a suspiciously large amount of butter. I'd prepared the crock-pot the night before and did the actual cooking, so all I needed to do was throw the crock-pot into its heater and turn it on. Since I prepared it the night before, I mentioned to another coworker that I was concerned about the amount of butter in it. Her response was, "Well, you can never have too much butter." So I went with it and turned the crock-pot on while I finished prepping the turkey for the oven. A couple hours later, I checked on it, and sure enough, the ham is essentially boiling in a honey cinnamony butter. It ended up being obnoxiously sweet, falling apart, not in a good way, and like 3 shades darker than normal ham. So today, I effed up by ruining 2 main dishes for the Thanksgiving potluck at work, the only 2 proteins that were served, and embarrassing myself in front of all my employees by doing so. At least I brought some brownies, too. I've never cooked a turkey before, and now I don't really ever want to again. I spent days trying to make a halfway decent turkey. Edit. I will definitely buy a pre-cooked protein in the future for my employees, or just stick to what I do best. I've been a store manager for 4 years now, but for the life of me, I cannot remember what I did for all the past Thanksgiving. Obviously, it wasn't cooking turkey. Unfortunately, it's my first year in this store, so the staff can't help me remember either. I know I've always done something for both Thanksgiving and Christmas, though. I always cater from the same place for my staff for Christmas, but I'm blanking on Thanksgiving. Mastering cooking a turkey just perfectly is tricky. It is not an easy task to do. I will give you all my main method for doing this, and that is I get a turkey that is not frozen, but you can buy a frozen one. You just got to let it thaw out in your fridge for a few days. Spatchcock it. Yes, absolutely do that. And that is taking some heavy-duty kitchen shears or a very sharp knife and carefully cutting the spine out, flipping it over and like cracking it so it's as flat as possible. I do a 24-hour dry brine. I don't like wet brines. I feel like they can mess with the skin like this person had, and it's just too watery. Takes away from the flavor. You do a dry brine, which is just salt. Good amount of salt. A little more than you think you need. It's going to soak into the turkey. It's going to help it retain moisture. It's going to get the skin looking nice and taut. You bake it in the oven at like 425. Thermometer in the breast. Don't you ever dare just go like, oh, the recipe said this amount of time for this. No. You put a nice digital thermometer in the meatiest part of the breast. You get that up to 155 at most. You pull that turkey out of the oven at 155. If you get it all the way up to 165, carryover cooking, gonna bring it way up. You're gonna have a dry turkey. You're gonna F it up. You get that out of there at 155 at most. I'll even do 150. I'm just saying. You let that sit. Oh, it's gonna be so good. You know, oh yeah, do the compound butter on the skin right before you put it in. Some nice herbs or whatever. Just sage, rosemary, thyme. Don't go overboard. Yeah, no, it's gonna be great. You're gonna be just fine. And yeah, if you don't know about... This person tried to do too many turkey things all at once. Just figure out like one little thing that works and stick with it, okay? I love cooking turkey, and my turkey, juicy, flavorful, amazing, every time. Story 6. Friend used sensitive information and lies to sabotage partner and I's relationship. Okay, so to preface this, I know I also effed up. I shouldn't have confided in this friend. I've learned my lesson, but how do I navigate this situation with grace and dignity and work on restoring trust while also dealing with the false accusations? My long-distance partner told me some things about his past relationships, and I ended up telling someone I trusted. We had a friendship where we shared a lot of dark stuff with each other as we both had trauma and such, etc. Looking back, I realize now that sharing that particular piece of information was really terrible of me. It wasn't an explicit secret, but it was something that could be weaponized and be hurtful to him. To be honest, there's not an excuse for it after I considered it. I can be gullible and trusting, and I was there. I know I missed the social memo. Sometimes I do that, but that isn't an excuse. She ended up sharing it back to him. However, she added on to the initial insult with completely doctored / out of context texts / lies and other dramatic stories that were not even remotely true. Stuff that was even accusing me of trying to destroy his friendship with his friends' relationships. Now, he obviously doesn't want to talk to me for the time being, and well, while I understand why and respect his decision, a large portion of the issue was these other accusations she's made of me. I took complete responsibility for sharing something. I have no excuse. It was a mistake, and a bad one. but I did deny everything else that was untrue. However, I have no proof otherwise because I couldn't prove anything that doesn't exist. He's in his own space and such, we have been giving each other space, but we still are in mutual communities together and all that, so we're civil and both still respect each other. I know we both care about each other, and I really regret hurting him like I did, and I know that doesn't fix it. I've already gotten advice about what I did, how it was wrong, and how to avoid this situation in the future, but too little too late. Here's the issue. My other friend found out she did this purposefully because she doesn't like me. One of her former friends also came forward and said she has a history of doing this for her own gain, just hasn't done it with any of us yet. She has also been planting seeds with other people like his friends for weeks or months. I guess my question is, how do I navigate this situation? How do I work towards displaying that I am truly cognizant of my mistake and work on rebuilding trust while also, hopefully peacefully, dismantling the things she planted in people's heads? I want to go about this maturely without drama because clearly she isn't well to do things like this. I feel it's unfair for us to have our relationship left in the context of, you did 7 terrible things, not 1 bad thing, even if he cannot trust me after this and we cannot rekindle the relationship. So as far as what to do with dealing with her, I would say that with the friends who know that she's doing this and yourself, you just stop dealing with her. Stop talking to her. Like, put up a wall. Because if she's going to be like that, I think the one thing that's going to teach her a lesson is losing friends and having these people go like, hey, if you're going to be like that when we talk to you and use it against us, we're not going to talk to you. And if a number of you do that, other people might start to pick up on that or ask you like, hey, why is this happening? You can explain, be truthful and honest, and that stuff will add up and eventually she'll have to confront that. As far as with this partner of yours, the best thing I can say is just, truthfully tell him like, hey, I absolutely know that what I did there was a huge mistake. I did not do these other things. If you would like to talk about it and if you'd like to try and rebuilding trust, please contact me, but I'll give you your space, which it sounds like you've pretty much done. And at that point, I would say the ball is in his court. And if he doesn't want to try and work on things, that's his choice, unfortunately. And you have to accept that. But if he doesn't want to work on things, I think that he'll reach out. It might not hurt to check after a while if he'd like to, but don't press the issue too much. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.